And just like that, the wedding was off. Maura Fallhaber was in tears while James C. Paul tried to explain, hoping to soften the blow of his actions, his infidelity. However, the damage was done beyond repair. I heard that Maura was so heartsick that in an attempt to get even, she threw the 3-carat stone into the ocean rather than return the ring to him. I bet money that poor Maura and Jamesy view this episode as one of the darkest in their lives. It is my belief that this incident allowed the first light of truth into their existence.
Sister Mary Cat says that we are all sinners, and that we pay the price for our transgressions. Not a soul amongst us is pure, she said.
It's a story that opens on a familiar stage and against a backdrop unspectacular. The dialogue uninspired, the scene well committed to memory.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been 1 week since my last confession. I've been angry, I've raised my voice. I've been jealous of others. I've coveted. I've wished bad things on people. I've said words that I'm not allowed to say. Again. I've been selfish. Again.
What is it that makes us who we are? Is it random chemistry, genetics, and DNA? Is it the divine will and direction of a supreme being? Or is it all left to chance and our trajectory determined by a series of experiences, perhaps a single event that sets us in motion?
I'm sorry for my sins. I ask for forgiveness. I'll try to do better. I'll keep trying.
After the stated contrition and recitation of the required prayers of penance, Father Milner asked if there was anything else. There was one more thing. There was a question.
Father, what if there is no God? What happens then?
But there is a God. It's what we believe. It's your duty to believe. Father Milner answered in a tone that made the young girl feel wrong. Your doubts are disappointing. You should be ashamed, he added, before abandoning her in the confessional. Father Milner was one of the few adults this innocent girl trusted. He had baptized her, served her first communion, counseled her and her mother when her father faded from the picture. As a 10-year-old, it was devastating to hear that she disappointed him.
My mother is disappointed. She says things like, it wasn't supposed to be like this, and this isn't what I wanted, when she thinks I'm asleep and can't hear her.
How many times did she listen to her mother apologizing when she brought trouble home with her? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sure she didn't mean it. It's just her way of playing. You know how kids struggle to try to fit in? Yes, I've talked to her about it. I've tried a lot of things, but I'll talk to her again.
But Mom, you're not listening to me. It's not my fault.
Just ignore her. She's only doing it for the attention. If she doesn't get the attention, maybe she'll just stop. Maybe she'll just grow out of it.
I didn't mean it.
When she was in 2nd grade at Immaculate, Sister Mary Cat would pick a student to feed her black Mollies during homeroom. The student she would pick was usually someone who got a 100 on a test or who knew all the answers to quizzes on class readings. Maybe they'd won the perfect attendance pin. All the kids loved the fish, and it was a big deal for Sister Mary Cat to choose you to feed them.
Those Mollies were awesome. I thought it was so cool that there were fish that were all black, and they always knew when they were going to get fed. The fish would swim to the top of the tank and wait for the flakes to fall to them in the water. I wanted to feed the Mollies. I never got picked.
One morning, in fact, it was the day of the Feast of St. Blaise, the students returned to homeroom to find the Mollies floating lifelessly, face up in the water. Someone had emptied the entire food container into the tank, and apparently the Mollies died from overeating.
Those stupid fish ate themselves to death. I never heard of that. So stupid. There was a whole scene. Sister Mary Cat cried. She cried right in front of us. I think that was the first time that I ever saw a grown person crying like a little kid. When I was young and my mother would catch me crying like that, she said I was being pathetic. That's how Sister Mary Cat looked crying over her fish. Pathetic.
That June, on the last day of school, Sister Mary Cat pulled her aside. "Why did you do it? Why did you kill those fish?" she said. "How could you?"
She accused me. Sister Mary Cat had no proof, but she flat out accused me. All year, she treated me like I didn't exist. But now something bad happens and suddenly she knows my name? How about that?
She let Sister Mary Cat know that it wasn't her. The girl looked that nun in the eye and swore that she didn't dump the fluke into the tank. She even promised Sister Mary Cat that she would try to find out who did it over the summer.
I've come to the conclusion that my teachers just don't like me. It's like in my classes, I'm always being told that I'm being disruptive or that I'm not paying attention. Miss McGovern would grab my mother at every parent's night on Immaculate and tell her that I could be doing so much better if I just learned to apply myself. I just don't get it. It's like everything just seems so easy for everyone else. Everyone else just knows what to say and do. They have all the answers. I'm fighting and struggling just to keep up. They're all in on this big secret about how to do everything, and they're all keeping it from me. It just isn't fair.
The feeling that it had always been her against the world had always been in the back of her head. That feeling was confirmed beyond all doubt not long after that particular confession experience with Father Milner.
Miss McGovern asked me to stay after class. What else is new? During her latest lecture about my failures, she insisted that maybe I'd be more disciplined and accountable for my behavior if I devote myself a bit more to God rather than running around doubting his existence. Miss McGovern told me that Father Milner had informed her about my what if question regarding the Almighty during my confession.
How could he? How could Father Milner betray her? Miss McGovern explained away hearing what this kid had said in the sanctity of the confessional by insisting that Father Milner acted out of concern for her spiritual well-being. She was told she should feel grateful rather than hurt. Her punishment for being foolish enough to accept the church's invitation to open her heart and express herself freely and confidentially was to write the words to the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, 60 times.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths.
With pen to paper, she wrote, "Trust the Lord." Well, in her head and her heart, she committed to the verse.
Trust no one.
Along with writing this Bible passage, she was to memorize it and recite it to Miss McGovern in a humble and heartfelt manner before being released from her after-school sentence. Miss McGovern let the girl know that it was her belief that Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 were words for us all to live by. She revealed that in moments when Satan tries to lure her from God's grace with temptation and doubt, repeating these Bible verses returns her to the path of righteousness. It would be 3 more years before this child and Miss McGovern's paths would cross again.
When I was in 5th grade, Immaculate held its first annual Bible Science Fair. Students were invited to build and submit projects that depicted commandments, sacraments, or Bible stories. Miss McGovern organized the fair and was charged with picking the grand prize winner. My shoebox figurine recreation of the story of Cain and Abel presenting their sacrifices before God never got a second look. Why did I even bother?
On the fair's judgment day, Suzanne Newsom's project turned up missing. It had been set up on the auditorium stage with all the other entries the morning of the fair. A quick faculty search of the school grounds led to the discovery of Suzanne's homemade diorama of Moses raising his staff as the Lord stirred the wind to part the sea, lay broken in a puddle of rain and discarded sour milk by the cafeteria dumpsters. The discovery left Suzanne broken as well. And it wasn't long before this girl was under suspicion. She swore on her mother's life that she had nothing to do with it. There was an investigation. With no evidence and no eyewitness, the case against her went no further. However, the suspicion remained. Although she had no proof, Miss McGovern let the girl know that she knew it was her who destroyed Suzanne's project. In my heart, your guilt is without doubt, and with doubt comes consequence, the girl was told.
Miss McGovern contacted my mother and asked her to consider transferring me to another school. She said that I was a plague upon Immaculate. Not long after the religion fair incident, Miss McGovern would learn what a plague in her life truly is.
Scandal had come to the doorstep of the Immaculate Conception Parish just prior to Christmas recess. At the end of what seemed like just another school day, every student was sent home with a sealed letter to their parents. The letter detailed a disturbing incident involving a member of the Immaculate faculty. Eventually, the story was known by everyone. Miss McGovern had written an email to a number of her colleagues, calling on them to join her in an effort to have Father DeFrancisco, a priest at our church of Peruvian descent, transferred to another parish more suited to men of his shade. The story that was going around was that the email was rife with racial slurs and involved something about Immaculate being stained with Father DeFrancisco in its fold.
Some of those who received the hateful message came forward and reported her. Miss McGovern denied that she wrote the email, but in our heart, her guilt is without doubt, and consequences had to be faced.
Miss McGovern was fired from Immaculate Conception Elementary School.
I never got to see Miss McGovern again. I had been hoping to stand before her just one more time, just to see if her face still wore that look. Those wide eyes that never known the pain of failure. That closed-lipped smile that let us know that she lives her life in a beautiful place, a magical part of the world where the bad can't reach you. A place that I could only dream about. It's the same look that I see on the faces of the chosen kids. The ones chosen to know and feel the joy. The ones chosen to be the Mollies, whose mothers never knew disappointment.
The look that made the unchosen turn their hands to fist. The way Suzanne Newsom looked, as if God himself had pushed the troubles from her life with the same winds that parted the seas for Moses and set the Israelites free. A look that was forever erased when Suzanne's seas collapsed and her vision drowned in garbage. The look that made Cain, when Abel's sacrifice pleased the Lord and his did not, slay his brother.
Perhaps I would get some satisfaction from Miss McGovern looking into my eyes and having the certainty that it was me that was responsible for her downfall. That somehow that hateful email was the work of my hands.
Maybe Miss McGovern would regret writing that email instead of making the usual phone call. Miss McGovern's mind would wander, and she'd imagine as the girl's mother showed her the email in which a teacher refers to a student, a 5th grade student, as a plague, that the girl also took note of the lorettamcgovern@gmail.com address and set out to hack her account. Did Miss McGovern imagine how little effort it would take to guess her password, access her contacts, and write the email that would wipe that smile from her face?
Proverbs 3, 5, 6. and I'm in.
Maybe someday, for Loretta McGovern, the answers will come.
Maybe if she just learns to apply herself a little more.
Most recently, I noticed that same impenetrable smirk on the face of Maura Fallhaber, my neighbor, who had my car towed when I blocked her driveway. Newly engaged, she assaulted us on TikTok with clips of her and Jamesy and the 3-carat symbol of their eternal bond. Eternal until Jamesy allowed himself to be seduced by the woman next door, whose only desire was to let the eternally joyful Maura Fallhaber know that giving yourself to a man can just as easily lead to abandonment, broken trust, and a thirst for revenge.
Would this woman have grown up any differently if the clergyman she looked up to hadn't betrayed her trust?
If, rather than shaming me for asking, what will become of us if there is no God, he admitted there were moments when he wondered the same. Would my days feel brighter?
Would her life path have been altered if she'd gotten to witness the black mice swim to her and await their meal while her classmates watched?
Would I be any different if the lessons of Cain and Abel weren't lost to the parting of the seas? Who knows? And more importantly,
Who cares?
what I do know is that my mission is set and my purpose is clear.
Those who labeled me a plague will soon come to see that I'm really bringing light and clarity to those who need it the most.
And although I may be forbidden to enter into their world,
I'm only too willing to welcome them into mine.